If you are an entrepreneur wanting to start your franchisee business or a business owner looking to expand your business through franchisee, then you are in the right place. Hey guys, I'm Mayank Bhargava, business coach and profit strategy expert, and in this video, let me tell you about different franchisee models. So if you have not seen my video in which I talk about top 10 things that you should be aware about when getting into franchisee business, then please visit the video and watch it. I've given its link in the comment section. So without further ado, let me share my screen with you and tell you all about different franchisee business models. Okay, so this is my mind map which I'm going to use. So by the way, if you have not subscribed to my channel, please make sure you do subscribe and give a thumbs up as well, so that YouTube will make sure that you get more videos of these kind. Okay. So let's start with what kind of franchisee business models exist in market. And before we get deep into it, let me tell you about the basic concept. So basically, there are three things that you should be aware about. Whenever you are getting into franchisee business, it's all about replicating success of an existing operation. So you might be a business owner who is already having a successful retail store or multiple stores, and you have came across certain best practices. You can leverage those to basically create chain of stores without doing too much investment in your own brand with your own money, which means your franchisee are basically going to invest in your brand. Or maybe if you are a person who's looking for an established brand, which is going to give you all know-how of how the business is going to operate, then that is what franchisee business model is all about. Okay, so it's going to leverage best practices and successful execution. As I mentioned, you have already done that. You are already master of the best practices, or you want to leverage on best practices which have already been there in the market. Like basically, you don't want to reinvent the wheel as an entrepreneur, then franchisee business is a very good option for you. Also, whenever you get into franchisee, the basic idea is this model has a proven success rate. Okay, so this model can be replicated with the success of the very first store. It's also going to get replicated with the best practices and know-how of the franchisor or the company. So from the company's perspective, they want to establish chain of stores, which is going to give them much needed visibility as well as added valuation. From franchisee's perspective, who is getting into the business, you are going to get associated with a well-established brand, which means that you know this brand is successful and you are going to leverage with the basically the pull of the brand. You are going to leverage pull of the brand. Okay, so let me talk about, if we have to talk about different franchisee models, what is the basic fundamental that you should remember? So the basic fundamental is, remember this word, WOWO, WOWO, and it's a pretty simple word to remember. It simply means who owns and who operates. And this is what franchisee business models are all about. So if you remember WOWO, you will definitely remember all the different kind of franchisee business models without putting a lot of effort to recognize what all things happen. Okay, so WOWO means who owns and who operates, and there are two aspects as I mentioned. First is the ownership, and second is operations. Ownership simply means that someone is going to do the capital expenditure, and operations simply means someone is going to take care of operational expenses like electricity, rent, so and so forth. Okay, so basis who owns and who operates, we have this particular quadrant that you can refer to. So we have ownership on this axis, right hand side, on the horizontal axis, and operations, who is going to take care of operations, on the left axis. So if company is taking care of ownership as well as company is taking care of operations, this particular model is called COCO, or company owned, company operated. pretty easy to remember. If you remember this diagram, you will always remember all the franchising models. Thereafter, there is another ownership, which is basically it can be franchisee owned as well. So franchisee owned company operated, if it falls in this particular segment, it's called FOCO, franchisee owned company operated. It's one of the business models and a very successful business model on that. Thereafter, in terms of operations, operations can be managed by franchisee as well. If we look at operations being managed by franchisee, then the first one will be company owned and franchisee operated, which is basically this segment. And thereafter, it can be a business model in which franchisee owns the store as well as operates it. Okay, so one by one, we are going to see all these models. We are not going to get into details of what are the advantages and disadvantages. I'm going to create a separate video for that. So in this video, my attempt is to give you the basic differences or the salient features of these kind of business models. And if there are companies which are utilizing these business models, who are those companies? Okay, so let's try to see these business models one by one. So the very first one is company owned, company operated. So this particular segment, this is also popularly called COCO. Now, you may remember that if you are a franchisee business owner, right? Or let me say, if you are a franchisor, right? You are the company, you are trying to create a lot of stores. There will be certain locations where you will be easily able to find the franchisee partners. However, there can be certain locations or there can be certain premium locations where you don't want to compromise any part of the business operations or any, basically even the ownership of the store with by bringing a franchisee. So there is when the COCO model becomes very important. So let's see what happens in COCO model. Simply everything has to be managed by the franchisor or the company, and there is no role of the franchisee, which means company is going to scout for the retail location, company is going to select the location, company is going to do the lease arrangement, company is going to do all the civil work, company is going to take care of all the finishing, furnishings, whatever needs to happen. And thereafter, company employees are going to take care of the business operations. Okay, so these are typically company owned chain stores. And this opportunity can be leveraged by the company typically when franchisee is not available, primarily due to ROI issue of the location. It may be possible the location is so expensive that from the franchisee's point of view, it does not make sense to leverage the location, or it's a flagship store where company wants to have a very tight control and cannot hand over the reins to a franchisee. So example can be PC Jeweler, Kalyan Jeweler. You will also see Hyundai flagship, which is there in Delhi. It's also based on the similar model. Okay. So this is about COCO. Next format that I want to talk about is company owned and franchisee operated. Company owned and franchisee operated, this particular quadrant in blue. It is also popularly called COFO. Let me just shut it down so that you are able to see this. So as I mentioned, company owned, which means company has to do the expenditure, capital expenditure. Any store lease agreement, it has to be done by company. Any civil work, it has to be done by company, so and so forth. Okay. Operational expenses are managed by franchisee. What kind of operational expenses? Electricity, uh, mundane expenses, miscellaneous expenses. However, rent is one thing which has to be negotiated between franchisee and the franchisor, and it can go either way because rent is a huge operational expense. So sometimes company, which is basically sometimes franchisor, it bears the rent, sometimes franchisee has to bear it. It all depends how flexible they are in terms of their agreement. Company is going to leverage passion of franchisee entrepreneur. So the basic idea is employee managing business versus an entrepreneur managing business. So company basically leverages this aspect of bringing in entrepreneurs to manage their business because they are full of passion and they also know that what it takes to make it successful, right? Because sometimes company employees, the incentive is not there to basically make the store profitable. And company, if they want to make the store profitable as well, they are going to outsource the operations to a franchisee partner. Here, profit sharing or percentage of sales sharing is going to happen. And from the franchisee perspective, it's going to be a low investment opportunity because they don't have to make down payment for the capital expenditure. They don't have to pay lease rent. They don't have to pay security deposits. They don't have to invest in making the store look beautiful as well. Okay. And this is popular in food catering franchisee. And I'll give you one example. And it's a pretty common format that you are going to see in a corporate. There is a caterer, and caterer has actually given franchisee. Caterer's franchisee is actually managing the operations or serving the food on daily basis. Also, if you see consumer electronic flagship stores in Delhi, Gurgaon, Bangalore, some of these stores, they actually work on this particular manner where company is bearing the lease, rent, creation of the store, all the expenses, all the capital expenditure, and basically um, the franchisee partner is taking care of day-to-day operations, and this has a lot to do with the FDI regulations as well. Okay. Next, let's talk about next model, which is franchisee owned and company operated, which is this quadrant, the one in gray, FOCO. Franchisee owned, company operated. This is a very good business model for those entrepreneurs who want to invest. However, they don't have time to basically look after the operations. So capital expenditure is done by franchisee. Operational expenses is taken care by company. And day-to-day operations, not to forget, they are taken care by the company. And this is typically very popular with international food chains. And you will also see a lot of consumer electronics and technology companies. They also operate in this particular manner, that sales staff is on the roles of the company and they manage the entire store. Okay. So this is also one way in which franchisee partner can benefit from this business without investing too much time in the uh, business. Last but not the least, let me talk about this quadrant, FOFO. And let me tell you, majority of the franchisee outlets that you are going to see in the market, they are on this particular format. The initial investment as well as operations is managed by franchisee. So it is exact opposite of the COCO format that we saw in the very first thing. However, there will be certain operational guidelines by the franchisor or the company, and ideally, franchisor should be taking care of all the training needs, all the way of how the business operations need to run. Franchisor should be taking care of all those aspects. And this is in this business model, typically what happens, what I have experienced, a lot of time franchisor has stake in whatever supplies are being given to the franchisee, and whatever material is being sold, franchisors make a lot of money by selling material to the franchisee. So it may be possible a company, say a large consumer electronics company, they have their own branded store, which is franchisee owned, franchisee operated, and they make money by selling the consumer electronics good to the franchisee partner. So it's pretty similar that they are going to supply the material to distributor. Instead of supplying to the distributor, they are supplying to the franchisee partner. And franchisee partner is subsequently taking care of selling the product to the end customer. And as I mentioned, majority of the franchisee opportunities, they fall in this particular space. And franchisor basically benefits as there is low minimum expenditure for the added visibility. Every store which comes in the vicinity or in the market, it adds to the basically visibility of the franchisor, and franchisee gets benefit of an established brand to get the footfall. So that is the benefit for the franchisee, and franchisors, they they can basically create unlimited number of stores leveraging this particular model because they do not have to invest themselves in any ways, whether in capital expenditure or operational expenditure. However, there are very good franchisors who take care of constant training requirements of the franchisee. Plus, they might be charging royalty for that purpose as well. So just beware in the case if a franchisor is saying that they don't want royalty, and if you're a franchisor and if you are not collecting royalty, then basically franchisee might feel that you do not have stake in, basically you have no role in the profitability of the franchisee. So ideally, a franchisee fee should be charged by the franchisor, and franchisor should provide a lot of value in terms of training, business operations, and sometimes even in investing in the marketing as well. Okay, guys. So let me tell you what is next. Once you are through with all these things, next will be to understand the advantages and disadvantages of different models which are prevailing. So I'm going to create a new video for that particular perspective. However, in the meantime, if you want to connect with me, there are multiple ways that you can leverage. So you can meet me live. I do a lot of live sessions. You can go to mayankbhargava.com. You can register for one of the masterclass, depending on whether you are an existing business owner or you want to start your own business. You are currently working for someone else and you want to start your own business. So you go over there. I have given the link in the comment section as well. You can contact me for the guidance call. So go to mayank.link, my one-to-one for this particular purpose. And I have also created very recently one VIP group for all of you who want to stay in touch with me, and join the VIP group, and we can connect with each other, we can interact with each other, and I can keep you updated with all the new content that I'm going to bring in. So guys, I hope this particular video was helpful for you. If it was helpful, give me a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe by clicking on the bell icon, and I'll see you in my next video, in which I'm going to talk about advantages and disadvantages of all the franchisee models. So this is Mayank Bhargava saying stay happy, stay healthy, stay profitable. Bye-bye.